Admiral James stood at the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet's flagship, Thunder, his experienced eyes fixed on the massive alien ships that had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the universe, they finally had their answer. But something about these ships made his combat-trained instincts scream danger. The alien fleet was impressive. Their smallest ship was twice the size of Earth's largest vessel. Their hulls gleamed with a strange purple metal unknown to human science. They moved with a precision that spoke of advanced technology and countless years of space travel. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Bill from his communication station. "They're using basic radio waves. Should I put them through?" James straightened his uniform. 20 years of military service had taught him to trust his gut. And right now, his gut was telling him this wouldn't be a friendly chat. "Put them on screen, Lieutenant." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, humanoid figure. Commander Ross of the Galactic Empire, as he introduced himself, had gray skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed with an inner purple light. He wore an elaborate uniform, covered in what appeared to be military decorations. "Greetings, primitive species," Ross spoke in perfect English, their universal translators obviously advanced. "I am here representing the mighty Galactic Empire, rulers of 1,000,000 star systems. We have deemed your solar system suitable for integration into our domain." James kept his voice calm and diplomatic, despite the insult. "Commander Ross, I am Admiral James of the Earth Defense Fleet. We welcome peaceful contact with your civilization, but we must inform you that Earth and its colonies are sovereign territory. We are not interested in being integrated into any empire." Ross's laughter echoed through the bridge. "How amusing. A species that has barely mastered basic spaceflight thinks it has a choice. Our empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Our military might is unmatched. Surrender now, and we will make your integration painless." "Commander," James replied, his voice taking on a steel edge, "I strongly advise against hostile actions. Humanity may be young in space, but we have more combat experience than you might expect. We are willing to establish diplomatic relations, trade agreements, and peaceful cooperation. But if you choose war—" He let the warning hang in the air. The alien commander's eyes flashed with anger. "You dare threaten the Empire? We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Our smallest fleet could turn your entire planet to ash." James shook his head slowly. "We're not threatening you, Commander. We're warning you. Humanity has spent most of its history fighting wars. We've mastered combat in every environment we've encountered. Space will be no different. If you force this conflict, you will learn why every human child knows the phrase, 'This is why we can't have nice things.'" "Enough," Ross roared. "You have one Earth rotation to surrender and begin integration procedures. If you refuse, we will demonstrate the true might of the Empire. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Lieutenant Bill turned to James, his face pale. "Sir, their fleet. It's huge. Sensors are counting at least 200 capital ships." James nodded grimly. "Send word to all Earth colonies and military installations. Full combat alert. And get me a direct line to the Defense Council." He turned to look at the tactical display, where the Empire's ships were arranging themselves in a perfect, textbook formation. A small smile crossed his face. Perfect formations meant predictable formations. The Empire clearly hadn't fought a real war in a very long time. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest military strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their ability to adapt, improvise, and overcome. "They think we're primitive because we haven't spread across the stars," James muttered to himself. "They don't understand that we've been too busy fighting each other to expand outward. But now—" He squared his shoulders and began issuing orders to prepare Earth's defenses. "Now they've given us a common enemy. Heaven help them." The Empire had just made the worst mistake in its 10,000-year history. They had threatened Earth, and humanity was about to show them why that was a very, very bad idea. The 24 hours given by Commander Ross passed quickly. Earth's combined fleet of 50 ships seemed tiny compared to the Empire's 200 massive vessels. But size wasn't everything, as humanity was about to prove. Admiral James watched from the Thunder's Bridge as the Empire's fleet moved into attack formation. Their ships arranged themselves in neat rows, like ancient sailing ships preparing for a broadside attack. It was beautiful, organized, and completely predictable. "All ships report ready, sir," Lieutenant Bill announced. "The colonies have activated their defense systems. Earth's missile platforms are armed and tracking." James nodded. "Send to all ships. Execute Plan Hornet's Nest." The human fleet scattered in what looked like panic to Imperial observers. Their neat formation broke apart as ships fled in different directions. Commander Ross watched from his flagship and laughed. "Look at them run," he told his bridge crew. "Just like all primitive species, they talk brave, but when faced with real power, they flee." He raised his voice. "All ships, advance. Show these humans the might of the Empire." The Imperial fleet moved forward as one massive unit, their weapons charged, creating a beautiful purple glow against the black of space. They expected a quick victory. They were wrong. The scattered human ships suddenly turned around. Each one launched dozens of small objects. Too small to be proper torpedoes, the Empire thought. They were about to learn about humanity's swarm missiles, developed from centuries of warfare on Earth. Enemy vessels launching debris, an Imperial officer reported dismissively. "Pathetic attempt, to." The officer never finished his sentence. The swarm missiles, designed to overwhelm advanced targeting systems, struck the Imperial fleet's perfect formation. Thousands of small explosions covered their ships like angry fireflies. "Shields failing," screamed another Imperial officer. "These aren't debris. They're smart weapons." Commander Ross watched in horror as his neat formation turned into chaos. The small human ships darted between his larger vessels, firing more missiles at point-blank range. His beautiful formation now worked against him. His ships couldn't fire without hitting each other. "Pull back," Ross ordered. "Regroup," and a massive explosion rocked his flagship. On his tactical display, he watched 3 of his largest ships disappear in balls of fire. The human vessels were using his own ships as shields, ducking behind damaged Imperial vessels to avoid return fire. "Sir," Lieutenant Bill called out on the Thunder, "Empire fleet is falling back. Their formation is broken. 35 of their ships confirmed destroyed, another 40 heavily damaged." Admiral James allowed himself a small smile. "Phase 2, Call in the Wolves." From behind Earth's moon, 30 more human ships appeared. These weren't the small, agile fighters that had scattered the Empire's formation. These were Earth's heavy cruisers, built for power rather than speed. They advanced on the now disorganized Imperial fleet like wolves closing in on wounded prey. "This is impossible," Ross shouted as another wave of explosions lit up space. "We are the Empire. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We cannot lose to primitives." But they were losing. The human ships moved like no fleet the Empire had ever faced. There was no pattern to their attacks, no formation to predict. Each ship fought differently, adapting to the situation moment by moment. After just 2 hours of battle, the mighty Imperial fleet was in ruins. Over 70% of their ships were destroyed or disabled. The rest were retreating in panic, their perfect formation forgotten. Admiral James watched them flee. "Send to all ships. Hold position. Let them run." He turned to his crew. "They'll be back with a bigger fleet. But now, they know what they're facing." The bridge crew cheered, but James stayed serious. This was just the beginning. The Empire had ruled for 10,000 years. They wouldn't give up after one defeat. But humanity had shown them something important today. The galaxy's newest spacefaring race was also its most dangerous. As the last Imperial ships disappeared into hyperspace, James sent a final message to Earth. First round to humanity. Prepare for round two. The Empire had learned its first lesson about humans in war. There would be many more lessons to come. High command of the Galactic Empire was in chaos. Dozens of military analysts crowded around holographic displays, watching recordings of their defeat on endless repeat. None of them could understand how a primitive species had destroyed 70% of their fleet. Impossible, shouted one general, slamming his fist on the table. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their ships are smaller, their weapons weaker. How did they do this? In walked Captain Lisa of the human forces, a prisoner captured during the retreat. The Empire had brought her in for questioning, certain she would reveal humanity's secret weapon. She looked small compared to the tall Empire officers, but her eyes held a confidence that made them uncomfortable. Tell us, demanded the lead analyst, what advanced technology did you use to defeat our fleet? Lisa smiled. No special technology. We just did what humans have always done. We adapted. The Empire officers exchanged confused looks. Lisa continued, let me tell you a story about Earth's history. The holographic displays shifted, showing scenes from human warfare through the ages. While you ruled space unopposed for 10,000 years, we fought ourselves. Every war taught us something new. When strong armies faced weak ones, the weak learned to fight differently. We call it asymmetric warfare. She pointed to the battle recordings. Your ships are powerful, but they fight like you've never faced a real enemy. We've spent centuries learning to fight stronger opponents. In another part of space, that lesson was being demonstrated again. Captain Tom's small squad of human ships darted through an asteroid field, pursued by a larger Empire force. The Empire ships stayed in formation, firing their powerful weapons in coordinated patterns. Got them trapped now, the Empire commander said proudly. No escape from this asteroid field. But Tom's ships did something unexpected. Instead of trying to escape, they split up. Each ship flew into the densest parts of the asteroid field, using the space rocks as cover. The Empire ships, too large and unwieldy to follow, could only watch in frustration. Sir, reported an Empire officer, the human ships, they're hiding behind the asteroids and picking us off one by one. Tom's voice crackled over their communication systems. Lesson 2 about fighting humans. We use our environment. Back in the High Command Center, Lisa watched the Empire analysts growing more frustrated. You still don't understand, do you? She said. Your biggest weakness isn't your technology or your tactics. It's your pride. She walked to a holographic map showing Empire territory. You've ruled so long, you've forgotten how to think like the underdog. Every human knows what it's like to face a stronger opponent. We've learned to be creative, to find weaknesses, to hit where it hurts most. One young Empire analyst spoke up. But our database shows humans fight each other constantly. Doesn't this make you weak? Lisa laughed. Every human conflict taught us something new. Desert warfare, jungle warfare, urban combat, guerrilla tactics. We've mastered them all. Now we're applying those lessons to space. The lead analyst studied the battle recordings again. Your ships, they don't fight as a single unit. Each one fights differently. Because each captain is encouraged to think independently, Lisa explained. We don't just follow orders, we adapt to the situation. In our history, the armies that couldn't adapt died. An alarm suddenly blared through the command center. Reports flooded in of human ships appearing in multiple sectors, striking Empire supply lines and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. It was another lesson about human warfare. Never fight just one battle when you can fight 20. You see, Lisa said calmly as the Empire commanders rushed to respond to the attacks, this is just the beginning. You thought space warfare was about big ships and powerful weapons. We're teaching you what humanity learned centuries ago. War is about outsmarting your enemy. The Empire was beginning to understand their terrible mistake. They hadn't just started a war with a primitive species. They had awakened a race of warriors who had spent their entire history learning to fight and win against impossible odds. And humanity was just getting started. 3 months after humanity's first victory against the Empire, Commander Tom stood before the Earth Defense Council. The large screen behind him showed a map of Empire supply routes he had spent weeks studying. "Operation Thunderbolt is ready," he announced. "Our spies have mapped the Empire's main supply lines. They're predictable, just like their battle tactics." Admiral James nodded from his seat. "Explain the plan, Commander." Tom pointed to several spots on the map. "The Empire moves supplies in large convoys, always following the same routes, always with the same security patterns. They've done this for thousands of years because no one ever attacked them here." He smiled. "Time to change that." Across Empire space, cargo ships moved between stars like they had for centuries. Their crews were bored, doing the same job their ancestors had done. Some played games, others slept. None expected any trouble. They were wrong. The first convoy never saw the attack coming. One moment, they were cruising through empty space. The next, 30 human ships appeared from behind a nearby moon. But these weren't regular military vessels. They were smaller, faster ships specially built for Operation Thunderbolt. "All ships, attack pattern Delta," Tom ordered from his command ship. "Hit hard, hit fast, then vanish." The human ships struck like lightning. Their new weapons, designed specifically to disable rather than destroy, turned the Empire cargo ships into floating hulks. Before the security escorts could respond, the attackers disappeared into the darkness of space. Similar attacks happened simultaneously across 50 different sectors. The Empire's supply network, unchanged for thousands of years, was torn apart in less than 6 hours. In the Empire's capital, alarms blared everywhere. "My lord," a panicked officer reported to the High Command, "we've lost contact with 90% of our supply convoys in the outer sectors." The Empire's response was predictable. They sent large battle fleets to guard the convoy routes. But this was exactly what Tom had expected. "Phase 2, he ordered over the secure channel. "Begin Operation Ghost." While the Empire's warships protected the space lanes, human ships struck at unguarded Empire outposts and bases. They appeared from nowhere, caused massive damage, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. The Empire's mighty fleet found itself chasing shadows. Back on his command ship, Tom watched the Empire's reactions with satisfaction. "They still don't understand," he told his crew. "They think war is about holding territory. We know it's about making the enemy waste their resources." The Empire's commanders grew increasingly frustrated. Every time they strengthened one area, the humans struck somewhere else. When they spread their forces out, the humans concentrated for devastating attacks. When they concentrated their forces, the humans picked off isolated targets. "Status report," Admiral James asked during the daily briefing. Tom displayed the latest data. Empire forces are in chaos. Their supply lines are crippled. Their ships are running low on fuel and ammunition. They're pulling forces back from their outer territories to protect their core worlds. "And our losses?" James asked. "Minimal," Tom replied. "We lost 12 ships out of 300. Most importantly, we've shown the galaxy something crucial. The Empire can bleed." News of the successful attacks spread quickly through the galaxy. Other species that had lived under Empire control for centuries watched with growing hope. The unbeatable Empire was being defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. On Earth, the Defense Council reviewed the operation's success. "This is just the beginning," Tom told them. "The Empire still doesn't understand what they're fighting. They think these are just raids." He pointed to the map showing the Empire's shrinking effective territory. "They don't realize we're systematically taking apart their ability to fight." Admiral James studied the reports. The Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force for 10,000 years. Now they faced an enemy who didn't play by their rules, who struck from the shadows, who turned their own size and power against them. "Send word to all commands," James ordered. Operation Thunderbolt was a success. Prepare for the next phase. He looked at the map of human ships spreading through Empire space like a growing web. The Empire is about to learn another lesson about humanity. We don't just fight wars, we win them. The Grand Hall of the Empire's capital world had never seen such chaos. High Admiral Marcus, Supreme Commander of the Empire's military, faced an angry crowd of noble families and military leaders. The massive chamber, usually a place of order and ceremony, now echoed with shouts of anger and fear. "How can a primitive species defeat our fleets?" one noble demanded. "We've lost half our supply lines." Marcus stood tall, his gray skin pale with stress. "The humans fight like no enemy we faced before." "They." "Excuses," another leader shouted. 10,000 years of military tradition, destroyed by barbarians who barely learned space travel. In the back of the hall, a young Empire officer named Rex watched quietly. Unlike the others, he had studied the human attacks carefully. What he saw frightened him more than any defeat. He saw innovation, adaptation, and a hunger for victory that the Empire had lost centuries ago. Meanwhile, on a distant planet under Empire control, something unprecedented was happening. Captain Lisa, who had escaped during a prisoner transfer, met secretly with leaders of 3 subjugated alien species. The meeting took place in an underground chamber, away from Empire surveillance. "The Empire calls humans primitive," Lisa told the gathered aliens. "But ask yourself this, who has made them lose more territory in 6 months than they lost in 10,000 years? The alien leaders looked at each other nervously. One of them, a tall creature with crystalline skin, spoke up. "We've watched your battles. Your ships fight with creativity. But the Empire's power is built on more than just military might." Lisa smiled. "Exactly. That's why we're here. Humanity isn't just fighting the Empire. We're offering an alternative. Freedom. Self-governance. True alliance instead of submission." Back in the Empire's capital, Marcus faced more bad news. "My lord," a communications officer reported, "we're detecting unusual activities in the outer systems. The subject species, they're talking to the humans." Marcus felt a cold fear in his stomach. The Empire had maintained control not just through military power, but through keeping their subject species isolated and dependent. Now humans were offering them something the Empire never had: respect and independence. On Earth, Admiral James received the reports with satisfaction. "How many species have contacted us?" he asked his diplomatic team. 15 so far," replied the head diplomat. "They're impressed by our victories, but more importantly, they're inspired by our message. We're not trying to build a new empire. We're offering partnership." The Empire's crisis deepened. More colonies and subject worlds began quietly supporting human forces. Some provided intelligence about Empire movements. Others offered safe harbors for human ships. The Empire's perfect system of control was falling apart. In the Grand Hall, Marcus made a desperate announcement. "We must gather all our remaining fleets, crush these humans with one massive attack." But the young officer Rex stepped forward. "My lord, with respect, that's exactly what they want. They've studied our tactics for months. They know how we think, how we fight. If we gather our fleets, they'll find a way to turn our strength against us." Marcus turned on him angrily. "You dare question 10,000 years of military doctrine?" "Those 10,000 years are our weakness," Rex replied calmly. "We stopped adapting, stopped learning. The humans haven't." In a secret meeting room on Earth, James reviewed the latest intelligence. The Empire was fracturing. Its rigid hierarchy, once a source of strength, now prevented it from responding effectively to human tactics. Its subject species, watching humanity's successes, were beginning to dream of freedom. "The Empire's greatest enemy isn't our weapons," James told his staff. "It's their own inability to change. They've ruled so long, They'd forgotten how to face a real challenge. As if to prove his words, reports arrived of more Empire colonies secretly reaching out to human diplomats. The mighty Empire, which had dominated the galaxy through fear and power for 10,000 years, was being defeated not just by human weapons, but by human ideas. The galaxy was changing, and humanity was leading that change. Captain Robert stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Victory, looking at the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 500 human ships filled the space around him. Alongside them were 300 ships from former Empire colonies that had joined humanity's cause. It was time for the final battle. "All ships report ready," his executive officer announced. "Our allies are in position." Robert nodded. The past 9 months of fighting had led to this moment. The Empire had retreated to their core systems, gathering their remaining forces for one last stand. But humanity had a plan. They always had a plan. "Send to all ships," Robert ordered. "Operation Endgame begins now." The combined fleet jumped into faster-than-light travel. When they emerged, they faced nearly 1,000 Empire ships protecting their capital system. The Empire's fleet was still impressive, their ships massive and powerful. But they weren't the same force that had once threatened Earth. They were afraid now. They had learned to fear human ingenuity. High Admiral Marcus watched the human fleet approach. "So they've come," he said to his commanders. "They think they can challenge us in our own capital. Show them the true power of the Empire." The Empire fleet moved forward in their traditional formation. But something was wrong. The human ships weren't attacking. Instead, they were spreading out, forming a loose sphere around the Empire fleet. "What are they doing?" Marcus demanded. "This isn't a proper battle formation." Young Officer Rex, now serving on Marcus's flagship, suddenly understood. "My lord, it's a trap. They're not here to fight our fleet. They're containing it." He was right. As the Empire fleet wondered about the humans' strange tactics, hundreds of smaller ships suddenly appeared behind them. These were the fast attack craft that had been haunting Empire supply lines for months. While the main fleet kept the Empire's ships busy, these raiders struck at the capital world's defenses. "Brilliant," Rex whispered, even as alarms blared around him. "They're not trying to destroy our fleet. They're going for the capital itself." Marcus screamed orders, but it was too late. The Empire fleet was too rigid, too slow to react. When they turned to protect the capital, the main human fleet struck their exposed flanks. When they tried to maintain formation, the raiders slipped through their lines. Robert watched the battle unfold exactly as planned. "Send in the third wave," he ordered. "Show them humanity's finest hour." A new group of ships appeared. These were the combined forces of 5 different alien species, all former Empire subjects. They had been waiting for this moment, waiting to strike back at their former masters. Their ships targeted the Empire's command centers, communication arrays, and defense stations. "This is impossible," Marcus shouted as his tactical display showed more and more red alerts. "We cannot lose. We are the Empire." But they were losing. The Empire fleet's formation was shattered. Their capital's defenses were failing. Centuries of doing things the same way had left them unable to adapt to humanity's fluid battle tactics. Robert's voice echoed across all channels. "Attention Empire forces. Your capital is surrounded. Your defenses are broken. Surrender now, and we guarantee fair treatment under Earth's military code." In the Empire's Grand Hall, panic spread among the noble families. Their perfect society, their unquestioned rule, was crumbling before their eyes. Some demanded they fight to the death. Others were already trying to negotiate surrender terms. Rex watched it all with a mixture of sadness and admiration. "We thought ourselves invincible," he told a fellow officer. "The humans taught us we were just stagnant." The battle lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the Empire's capital was under human control. Their mighty fleet had surrendered. 10,000 years of absolute rule had ended in less than a year of war against a species they had called primitive. Robert stood at his command station, watching the Empire's surrender signals coming in from across the galaxy. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "The capital has fallen. The Empire is finished." Humanity had not just won a war. They had changed the galaxy forever. And they did it not through overwhelming force, but through adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to offer friendship to those who would join them. The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun. 1 month after the Empire's surrender, the Grand Hall of their former capital hosted a very different kind of meeting. Admiral James stood before representatives from over 50 alien species, many of whom had been Empire subjects just months ago. The massive chamber, once a symbol of Empire power, now served as the birthplace of a new galactic alliance. "The war is over," James announced to the gathered representatives. "But our real work is just beginning." In the audience, Captain Lisa sat next to the crystalline alien leader she had first met in secret months ago. Around them, former enemies and allies alike listened as humanity outlined their vision for the future. "We didn't fight this war to build a new empire," James continued. "Earth offers something different, a true alliance of equals, each species free to govern themselves, but united for common defense and prosperity." The changes were already visible throughout the galaxy. Empire warships, once symbols of oppression, were being converted into trade vessels. Former military outposts became cultural exchange centers. Species that had been kept apart by Empire decree were now meeting, trading, and sharing knowledge. On a former Empire colony world, Commander Tom watched as human engineers worked alongside local aliens to rebuild a city damaged in the fighting. The aliens were surprised when the humans asked for their input and ideas, instead of just giving orders like the Empire had done. "Your people are strange," an alien elder told Tom. "You have the power to rule us all, yet you choose not to." Tom smiled. "Ruling through fear is easy, but it makes you weak in the long run. The Empire proved that. We prefer to build something stronger, trust and mutual respect." Back in the Grand Hall, Rex, the young Empire officer who had seen the truth before many others, addressed his fellow Empire citizens. "For 10,000 years, we thought strength meant never changing. The humans taught us that real strength is the ability to adapt and grow." Many former Empire worlds were struggling to adjust to their new freedom. Centuries of Empire control had left them dependent on orders from above, but humanity had experience with this too. Earth sent not just military advisors, but teachers, doctors, and cultural experts to help these worlds transition to self-governance. Admiral James walked through the halls of the new Galactic Council building, which was being constructed to replace the Empire's palace. The design incorporated architectural elements from all member species, creating something entirely new and unique. "Status report," he asked his aide. "Positive progress." "Sir," the aide replied. 30 former Empire worlds have already held their first free elections. Trade between species is up 300%, and 17 new species have applied to join the alliance. James nodded with satisfaction. The war had proved humanity's military prowess, but peace was proving their true strength, the ability to bring people together and build something better than what came before. In Earth's main command center, the Defense Council reviewed reports from across the galaxy. Pirates and criminals who had thought the Empire's fall would let them prey on weaker worlds were learning that humanity's protection of its allies was absolute. Several attempted raids had been stopped by combined human-alien defense forces. "The galaxy is changing faster than we expected," one council member noted. "Change is what we do best," replied another. "It's what won us the war, and it's what will help us build the peace." A year after the Empire's surrender, thousands of ships gathered near Earth. But these weren't warships. They were diplomatic vessels from every alliance member, come to celebrate the formal establishment of the new Galactic Federation. As fireworks lit up Earth's sky, beings from across the galaxy watched in wonder. Captain Lisa, standing next to her alien friends, summed it up best. "The Empire thought they were teaching us our place in the galaxy. Instead, we taught them something far more important. The greatest power isn't the ability to conquer, but the wisdom to cooperate. The Empire had ruled through force for 10,000 years. Their legacy was fear and stagnation. Humanity's rule would be different, built on freedom, cooperation, and the constant drive to improve. The galaxy was entering a new age, and for the first time in millennia, the future was full of possibilities. As the celebration continued, a message was carved into the new Federation headquarters. Progress comes not from strength alone, but from the courage to change and grow. It was written in Earth English, but the idea behind it was universal. The age of humanity had truly begun.